Praia da Luz is a small yet charming resort town with a beautiful white sandy beach surrounded by cliffs near Lagos, Portugal. It has a Mediterranean climate, a welcoming family-friendly atmosphere, and numerous cafes as well as restaurants that offer delicious food. It's not surprising that it is a popular holiday destination for many families. But underneath its charming and homey atmosphere lies a dark history. One that continues to haunt some people in the community and even abroad. It's been 17 years since 3-year-old Madeleine McCann went missing from her family's holiday apartment in Ocean Club located in Praia da Luz, while her parents were just a short walk away having dinner at a local restaurant. But her mysterious disappearance has yet to be solved. Was she abducted by a person or persons unknown? Or did her disappearance involve her parents? For quite a long time, much of the public as well as the police harbored suspicions against Jerry and Kate McCann. It was only recently that a new suspect surfaced, a German man called Christian B., who had been living in the area around the time Madeleine went missing. However, he has yet to be charged with the kidnapping of Madeleine, and he was acquitted of unrelated sexual offenses in Germany. That's not to mean that he's not guilty. Then again, there seems to be no direct evidence pointing to the real culprits. Or is there? Today we'll take another look at the mysterious disappearance of Madeleine McCann to see if we can figure out what most likely happened. On April 28, 2007, 3-year-old Madeleine McCann went on a week-long summer holiday in Praia da Luz with her parents, Kate and Jerry McCann, physicians in Rothley, Leicestershire, and 2 twin siblings, 2-year-olds Sean and Amelie. The McCanns were joined by several other friends who also brought their children. At 7 p.m. on May 3rd, Kate and Jerry prepare their children for bed. They read a bedtime story to Madeleine, while the twins are placed on a travel cot right next to Madeleine's bed. All 3 children are fast asleep. The window is closed. The shutters outside the ground floor bedroom are down. The couple leaves the door to the bedroom ajar before leaving to have dinner at a nearby tapas restaurant with the other parents in the group. The apartment remained unlocked. This was not the first time that they had done so. The restaurant was roughly 50 meters, around 165 feet away from the Ocean Club complex where the children were sleeping, and they had set up a system wherein a parent would check on the children every half hour. The dinner had started out around 8:30 p.m. Jerry, Madeleine's father, took his turn at 9 p.m. He checked on the children and everything seemed fine, though he later recalls that the position of the bedroom door is different from how they left it. At 9:15 p.m., Jane Tanner, another parent in the group, walks past the McCann's apartment to check on her own children. She stated that at the time, she saw a man carrying a child. The child was barefoot and wearing pajamas. At 9:30 p.m., another parent, Matthew Oldfield, goes to check up on his own kids. He also offers to check on the McCann's children as they are staying in the apartment next door. He comes back, reporting that everything is fine and quiet. At 10 p.m., it's Kate's turn to check on the children. Upon entering the apartment, she notices that the door to the children's bedroom is quite open. When she enters the room, she discovered the twins asleep while Madeleine had gone missing. She also notices that the window is open and the shutters are up. She quickly alerts the rest of the parents in the group, as well as the restaurant staff. And the search for Madeleine begins. On May 4th, the Portuguese police revealed that they believe Madeleine was abducted, but still alive and currently in Portugal. By the 14th, they announced the first official suspect, an Anglo-Portuguese man named Robert Murat. His house was searched, his pool was drained, and even his associates were questioned. He was later cleared in 2008. On August 4th, an article on a Portuguese newspaper reveals that British sniffer dogs have found traces of blood on a wall in the McCann's holiday apartment. By September, Madeleine's parents also become arguidos, or suspects, in their daughter's disappearance. This came after a specialist cadaver and human blood dog alerted in the vehicle. Forensic teams reportedly found DNA samples in the trunk of a silver Renault Scenic hatchback the family rented on May 27th. 25 days after she went missing. According to cell phone mast ping data, the car was used to travel west and north of Praia de Luz several times. It was also to travel to Spain. The vehicle was later returned to the rental car office on September 23rd. Based on the odometer, the car was used to travel 11,227 kilometers. The police theorized that Madeleine had accidentally died and her parents buried her body somewhere. Then they faked an abduction to cover up her sudden disappearance. 2 days after they were questioned by the police, the McCanns fly back to England with their twins. It must be noted that a UK lab rules the DNA samples from the car as inconclusive. By this time, the authorities have publicly acknowledged that Madeleine could be dead. In October, Chief Inspector Goncalo Amaral was removed from the investigation after he criticized the British police in an interview with a Portuguese newspaper. He eventually publishes a book about it entitled The Truth of the Lie a year later that proposes the theory that Jerry and Kate are responsible for Madeleine's disappearance. The investigation and search last for 14 months. On July 21, 2008, the Portuguese authorities officially declare the case closed and unsolved. They revealed loads of information that concluded with a statement admitting that they could not reach any lucid, sensible, serious, and honest conclusions about the circumstances. The authorities also admitted that some of the forensic evidence inside the apartment, potential fingerprints, fibers, and DNA that could lead to a suspect, were contaminated or lost. At this point, they also clear the McCanns and Mr. Murat as suspects. Though the case in Portugal was closed, that didn't stop other organizations from continuing the search. UK's Child Exploitation and Online Protection Centre, for example, created a video in several different languages asking people for information about Madeleine. They also released aged photos of Madeleine to give the public a better idea of what she would look like as she grew older. These efforts helped keep the public's interest in the case alive. In 2011, Scotland Yard announces that they will review the investigation into Madeleine's disappearance after being petitioned by the McCanns, which was followed by a request from Home Secretary Theresa May. A year later, they call on the Portuguese authorities to reopen the case. Unfortunately, the police say that they have no new material or leads to follow. In 2013, Scotland Yard announces that they will launch their own investigation on Madeleine's disappearance. The investigation, called Operation Grange, is funded by the British Home Office, which would go on to cost more than £10 million. Restarting the case led the team to come up with a list of 600 people of interest and 41 potential suspects. Months later, the Portuguese authorities also reopened the case after their own review revealed that there were witnesses who were never questioned during the original investigation. In 2014, British detectives, along with sniffer dogs and specialists, search in various areas in Praia de Luz, including an area of scrubland close to where Madeleine disappeared. Unfortunately, nothing of interest was found. Before the year ended, the detectives started questioning 11 new people. Again, no new material was revealed to the public. What was known was that Operation Grange had already cost British taxpayers more than £10 million. After 2 years of investigation, the team was downsized from 29 officers to 4. Though the Operation Grange team was smaller, the investigation continued over the next few years. The government even dedicated another £150,000 to the investigation. By 2019, the British police had investigated various suspects, including 3 burglars who were in the area at the time. They also discovered that there were 5 cases of young British girls being abused in holiday apartments in the Algarve by a lone intruder. In June 2020, a prime suspect emerges. German police identified a 43-year-old German prisoner named Christian B., who is currently serving a jail sentence as the possible culprit for Madeleine's disappearance. Christian B. was serving sentences at this time in Germany for drug smuggling, and his criminal record included sex against a minor. Not only did Christian B. have a history of but he had also been living in Portugal's Algarve holiday area between 1995 and 2007, working odd jobs while burgling hotels and holiday apartments. At the time of Madeleine's disappearance, it is believed that he was living in a white VW Westphalia campervan with yellow skirting, which was reportedly seen near the Ocean Club that day. His other vehicle, a 1993 Jaguar XJR6 with a German number plate, was also seen in Praia de Luz and surrounding areas in 2006 and 2007. The day after Madeleine went missing, Christian B. transferred the registration of the Jaguar to someone else. The authorities also discovered that he had quietly left Portugal and returned to Germany shortly after. Further investigation was done on Christian B.'s whereabouts on that fateful night. The authorities were able to track his cell phone on the night Madeleine disappeared. They discovered that he was at the crime scene, or at least next to it, during that time. Christian B. received a phone call while in the Praia de Luz area at 7:32 p.m., which ended at 8:02 p.m. The authorities believe that Madeleine was abducted sometime between 9:10 p.m. and 10 p.m. that evening. More information obtained regarding Christian B. seemed to point to his guilt. The German police discovered that Christian B. had connections to 2 properties in the area, one of which was just a 10-minute drive from Praia de Luz. The other house is located a mile away from the resort. It is also just a mile away from the grassy land that was searched by the British police in 2014. Despite the revelations provided by the German police, Christian B. was only declared an official suspect by the Portuguese authorities in April 2022. Based on a request made by German police as part of their investigation, a search was conducted near the Arade Dam Reservoir, which is around 30 miles, 48 kilometers, from Praia de Luz. According to them, Christian B. regularly visited the area and described it as "my little paradise." Unfortunately, the search yielded nothing. In 2022, Christian B. was charged in Braunschweig for 5 unrelated and separate offenses that he committed in Portugal. 3 of the offenses were aggravated of women, while the other 2 were of use of children. The case was initially thrown out of court because Christian B. lived in a different region of the country at the time of the alleged offenses. On February 24th, another trial was set, this time in Brunswick. On October 8th, Christian B. was acquitted by a panel of 3 judges who had argued that there was insufficient credible evidence to convict him. Despite the circumstantial evidence that points to his involvement in Madeleine's disappearance, no formal charges have ever been filed against Christian B. Though he is still serving a 7-year sentence for a he committed in 2005, notably in the same area of the Algarve region where Madeleine went missing. He will be free in 2025. Time is running out for authorities if they want to charge him while he's still in custody. But with no new insights to the case, can we truly say that Christian B. is guilty of kidnapping Madeleine McCann? Or is there some other explanation out there? Jerry and Kate McCann were the first people suspected by many when Madeleine disappeared. A lot of people criticized the couple's parenting. Some claim that the McCanns gave their children sleeping pills so that they can enjoy their dinner night. And they might have mistakenly given too much to Madeleine, causing her to overdose and die. So they dumped her body and faked an abduction. Now there is some circumstantial evidence that seems to support that theory. Reportedly, British sniffer dogs trained to detect body scent and blood reacted to something inside the McCann's holiday apartment, as well as in the car rented by the couple, around 3 weeks after Madeleine disappeared. Partial blood samples were recovered and sent to a lab for DNA testing. Moreover, the couple has never denied being uncooperative with the authorities, not disclosing leads discovered by their private investigators. But their reason for this is that the police kept treating them as suspects. However, a transcript of a police interview with Kate revealed that she had refused to answer 48 out of 49 questions. Though her reasoning here remains the same, looking at some of the questions asked by the police, it does make one suspect that there is more to Madeleine's disappearance than what we previously believed. Some of the questions were, 1. On May 3, 2007, around 2200, when you entered the apartment, what did you see? What did you do? Where did you look? What did you touch? Number 2. Did you search inside the master bedroom wardrobe? Number 3. Assuming Madeleine was abducted, why did you leave the twins to go to the tapas and raise the alarm? The supposed abductor could still be in the apartment. Number 4. Why did you go and warn your friends instead of shouting from the veranda? Number 5. What does "we let her down" mean? Number 6. Who did you phone after the occurrence? Number 7. Did you call Sky News? Number 8. Did you know the danger of calling the media because it could influence the abductor? Of course, this is merely our impression. Aside from Kate's suspicious behavior and a sniffer dog's reactions, it's hard to find any other evidence that proves their guilt. DNA test results of the blood samples collected inside the apartment showed that it did not belong to Madeleine. The sample in the car was inconclusive. The McCanns are both physicians, which makes it unlikely for them to mistakenly give their daughter an overdose. In addition, they're without a car and in a foreign country. They only rented one after Madeleine had disappeared. And they were still in the middle of enjoying dinner with friends. How could they possibly transport Madeleine's body and successfully hide it from everyone, including the local authorities, with the timing so tight? More importantly, Madeleine was their miracle baby. The couple found it hard to conceive and had to undergo a series of grueling in vitro fertilization procedures before Kate became pregnant with Madeleine. How could they bear to just let their precious baby stay hidden in an unmarked grave for the rest of their lives? So, if it's not the McCanns, who did it? Well, some believe that Madeleine might have been kidnapped by a childless couple who wanted to raise her as their own. Or she might have been kidnapped by criminals acting on behalf of a wealthy couple. Witnesses reported seeing suspicious characters around the Ocean Club resort just days before Madeleine's disappearance. These people could have been scouting the place, as well as observing the children, looking for one that fit the requirements. Unfortunately, there is no evidence to support this theory. In addition, it is more likely for such a kidnapper to abduct one of the younger children instead of Madeleine. They're less likely to resist and are at an age where they wouldn't be able to remember much of their old life as they grew up. Another popular theory is burglary gone wrong. It was reported by the McCanns that Madeleine had woken up the night before while they were out having dinner. It's not impossible for the same thing to happen the next night. Only this time, she wakes up to a burglar inside the apartment. In a panic, the burglar attacks her and then decides to carry her off. Some would say that it's more logical for a burglar to simply get out of the apartment than it is to abduct a 3-year-old child. Then again, you can't really predict what people will do under pressure. The British police, with the help of the Portuguese authorities, did follow up on this theory. However, they didn't find any evidence to support it. The one theory that we consider explains what most likely happened is that Madeleine was attacked by a local pedophile. As mentioned earlier, there were several suspicious men seen around the Ocean Club resort before and on the day that Madeleine disappeared. More importantly, the police eventually discovered that several young girls were molested by a lone intruder as they slept inside their holiday apartments and villas. Most of the vacationers were of British descent, and these series of attacks occurred in resorts along the Algarve coast in the years leading up to 2007. That's not all. 2 of the attacks reportedly happened in Praia da Luz. Initially, Portuguese authorities suspected former Ocean Club waiter Euclides Monteiro. However, he died in a freak accident in 2009. DNA evidence did eventually rule him out, but that only meant that there was another predator still at large. Which leads us to our main suspect, Christian B., who has been revealed to be Christian Bruckner. Based on all the theories and revelations made by the authorities, we believe that Madeleine's disappearance is strongly tied to Christian Bruckner, a 43-year-old German with a history of rape use against children. In 1994, Christian was given a 2-year suspended jail sentence for seizing a child by a court in Würzburg. He was 17 at the time. In 2014, Christian was charged with a 5-year-old. The police also found 391 photo files and 68 video files of child in his home. He was sentenced to 15 months in prison for both offenses. He was also found guilty of raping a 72-year-old American woman in Praia da Luz in 2005, the same resort where the McCanns were staying. That's not all. In 2016, German police conducted a search on a deserted factory deep in the woods of Saxony-Anhalt, Germany, as part of a broader investigation into child pornography. The factory was once owned by Christian. The police found a camper van with 3 girls' swimsuits inside. They also found USB drives containing pictures and videos of child abuse. Some of the videos included himself. In 2015, a 5-year-old German girl, Inga, went missing from a family party in Saxony-Anhalt. Inga remarkably looked similar to Maddie, with blonde hair and blue eyes. A witness reported hearing a scream at the time of her disappearance, while another reported seeing a white van driving away down a nearby lane. Christian was reportedly involved in a car accident near where the little girl was abducted. Moreover, a white Sprinter van believed to have been used by Bruckner when Inga vanished was found in April 2024. The van was seized by German police from its new owner. They discovered that it had been renovated to include 2 hidden spaces, one in the wall and one in the floor. German police also discovered that the same van had been driven by Christian various times to Spain and Portugal, including the time that Maddie went missing on May 3, 2007. According to the dealership, Christian had suddenly returned the van in early 2016 before suddenly fleeing to live in Portugal. This happened just after Christian had been convicted of a 5-year-old girl, the daughter of an ex-girlfriend named Anya K. in Braunschweig. The dealership commented that when Christian returned the van, it had a lot of scratches and dents, including the underbelly, while the tires were worn out and dirty. This could possibly indicate that the van had been frequently driven on rough dirt tracks. According to friends of Christian, the van had been adapted by him immediately after he got it and used on dozens of trips around Europe. One friend explained that the artificial partition walls were used to hide drugs and other things Christian was transporting from Portugal and Spain to Germany. Evidence of his sexual preferences proves that Christian is quite capable of abducting Madeleine, but knowing he is capable is just one part of it. The next thing we need to look at is how he could have done it. Christian, as we mentioned earlier, was living in the area at the time of Madeleine's disappearance. He was doing odd jobs, including working as a waiter. He would also burgle hotels and holiday apartments. We think that he might have been already casing the guests currently residing in the Ocean Club Resort when he came across the McCanns. His van was reportedly seen in the area. He may have observed that Madeleine's parents would often go out at night for dinner with the other parents in their group, leaving Madeleine and her siblings alone in the apartment. According to the British police, the kidnapping would have been planned. The suspect would have thought carefully about when and how he would do it. In addition, he would have been quite familiar with the area. Moreover, the children's bedroom was on the ground floor, quite easy for someone with experience in burgling to sneak in, especially since the resort was ungated and accessible to the public. Aside from British and Portuguese people, the 2 other predominant nationalities in the resort were Dutch and German, so it's possible that the suspect belonged to one of these countries. All these details fit Christian Bruckner to a T. And when Germany's version of BBC TV's Crime Watch made an appeal to the public for any information about 2 German-speaking men at Praia da Luz in 2013, a tip was made about a man named Christian Bruckner. Apparently, we aren't the only ones who thought so. So, on that fateful night, Christian went inside the McCann's holiday apartment, grabbed Madeleine as planned, and left in his Jaguar for an unknown location. Now, we won't speculate on what happened after they arrived at their destination. It's most likely that Madeleine is already dead and buried somewhere in the region along the Algarve coast. After all, that's a place Christian is very familiar with. Christian was even linked to 2 properties in the area, one near the resort and the other near the area searched by the police. After the crime, he transfers the registration of the Jaguar and keeps a low profile. But when Madeleine's disappearance becomes a global concern, he quietly slips off to Germany, avoiding the police from noticing him. Until he makes a drunken confession to a friend, a man named Helga B. According to the friend, he found that Christian had videos showing himself women. In addition, when the friend saw Christian in 2008, they talked about how Christian no longer traveled to Portugal for business due to the many police checks since a British girl disappeared. The witness then remarked that he couldn't understand how a little girl could disappear without a trace. Bruckner allegedly replied that she didn't even scream. Of course, we can't just rely on the testimony of someone who reportedly broke into Christian's apartment to rob him while he was in jail. There are also other details, such as phone records that place Christian in the Praia de Luz area around the time of Madeleine's disappearance. A former cellmate of Christian, Laurencio Codin, also told the Braunschweig Regional Court that Christian had abducted a girl in Portugal who sounded like Madeleine. Of course, everything we've said is all just theory. Christian Bruckner is innocent until he is proven guilty. According to Christian, he was with a woman at the time of Madeleine's disappearance, and he drove that woman to Faro Airport the morning after they spent the night together. Christian also stated that the woman was later arrested for carrying a pepper spray and had to appear in court. He appealed to the Portuguese authorities to verify his claim. Nothing has ever been confirmed. Whether he's telling the truth or we're in the right is up in the air. We can only hope that one day we will get the answers to all of our questions, so that Madeleine can finally rest in peace.